Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is officially Inauguration Eve, and we know that Donald Trump moved the inauguration inside. Many people saying it's a security issue, not necessarily just a weather one. Maybe the weather's a good excuse to calm people from panicking too much about Trump being safe, but certainly it does seem like, based off of some of the tea leaves, there's some talk of maybe some anti drone equipment to make sure there's nothing funny happens. I mean, obviously now with it being inside, it's going to be a lot safer from any type of drone issue. But it does seem like there is significant worry, or there was significant worry for Donald Trump's safety. We don't know the extent of the potential threats against Trump, but obviously, with what happened back in July, Trump hires an $8 million private security. It's what was discussed back then that Trump needs his own private security. What they're giving him is not good enough. They were giving Kamala Harris more resources than Trump because they're like, well, Kamala Harris is actually the VP. Trump at the time was just a candidate. That was before the RNC when that happened back in July. So he wasn't even technically the official Republican candidate. He was, I guess, a primary candidate at the time. But the point of it is, Trump gets the $8 million private security. He does not trust the Secret Service. And why would you? And by the way, Trump has said a lot of really nice things about the Secret Service. It's kind of been this strange thing to where, I mean, if I were Trump, I'd be like, this is unbelievable what you guys did. I mean, how does this happen where they nearly blow my head off? But it seems like Trump's publicly has said some really nice things about them. Privately, he's hired he's hired private security to handle most of it because he just doesn't trust the Secret Service, I'm sure, especially after what happened back in July. But the number one concern right now, it does seem like, according to a lot of people around Trump, is the safety of Trump leading into the inauguration. And it does seem like it's a convenient excuse because of the weather. I mean, listen, if it's 20 degrees with a wind chill down to about 5 or 4, that's pretty brutal in and of itself. You've got liberals coming out gloating, saying, well, it's because the crowd size and everything like that. I don't understand why they do it to try and get under Trump's skin because he talks about the crowd size and things like that. But it's just such a strange thing considering Kamala Harris and her horrible crowd sizes, and really same thing with Biden. He couldn't even come out in 2020. But the real reason is mainly because of the weather, and even more so because of the threats against Trump that they don't want to disclose right now. They want to get Trump into the office, keep everyone's nerves down, and there's going to be so many executive orders, just like there always are, right? The liberal outrage. Oh, I can't wait for Trump to be, what is it? Trump's going to be a dictator tomorrow. Remember that line? Trump said he was going to be a dictator on day one. Well, yes, it's a hyperbole. That's what every president does. It's the most powerful time when you sign all the executive orders and you get rid of all of the Biden stuff. That's just a normal thing. Liberals turned it into this crazy, oh, Trump said, he's implementing a dictatorship. Obviously, that's not what he meant at all. But either way, you can see Trump hiring private security, receiving an $8.1 million contract. And you can see they've got a lot of security there. So obviously people are worried about Trump and his safety. I thought this was kind of funny. This is one of those word pictures or whatever, I'm guessing the question to American citizens in this survey was, what did Biden achieve in one single word during his presidency? It's just such, I mean, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? But then all of these are words into a picture, and it's just nothing. It's so much bigger than all the other words. What does absolutely mean? Oh, maybe it was a few different, look, I see stimulus, economy, economic, infrastructure, climate, democracy, honesty, undecided, achieved, country, IDK, event, great, peace, inflation, but then just nothing. And yeah, so the whole inflation thing, I mean, I don't know if anyone's been listening to what Biden said in the Democrats. The whole thing with the 28th Amendment, the Equal Rights Act or whatever, the amendment for equal rights, it's just so pathetic, Like, I think they probably want to force Trump to do something about it, and then it's going to make Trump look bad for not trying to implement it. But that whole thing makes no sense considering, you need 30 out of 50 states for it to become an amendment. And because it's such an old proposal, 5 of the states, the time has already lapsed. They were like, well, back in 2020, Virginia agreed to ratify this as an amendment. That's 38 out of 50, so it should be an amendment. but 5 of the states, because this has been such a long thing, like this was brought up in the 60s about doing this amendment for like equal rights or whatever. Back in the 60s, there were states that voted on it, and now it's like the timing of it's been lapsed. Like 5 of the states, it's already at this point it's expired. So you do not have 38 of the 50 states. And again, I think this is probably like to say, oh, well, Trump's a bigot. He doesn't want equal rights when he comes into office and doesn't, do something about it. It's just very odd that they're doing it at this point. But it's more so strange that they're like, oh, it is now the 28th Amendment. When, I mean, they very clearly know it's not. It does not have 38 of 50. 5 of the states, it would be 33 out of the 50, I think. I haven't even done. Maybe it's even less than 33, but I know it's minimum 5 of the states that voted to ratify it. The time has already elapsed on it. And so it's just strange that they would try and like, this is a last second thing. And I'm sure, these type of things where presidents try these maneuvers, we'll probably think back like 2 years from now and be like, oh, that's why they tried to do that. It'll be something like that where we'll remember back and be like, oh, so that's why they tried to have that passed. But yeah, it seems like Biden and the Democrats, I saw Biden come out and say in his closing speech or one of his closing statements that, my impact is going to be known years from now, basically signaling the economy is going to continue to get better and better. And to be fair, obviously, like this is the thing with me, and I don't want to rehash this, but it's like they keep talking about how Biden comes in during the pandemic and how much of a disadvantage he had for coming in during such a tough time, and there was always going to be inflation and it was unavoidable. And again, there are a few things that Biden did to make inflation worse. That's one of the things when you talk to these liberals, they try and get away with it, like, oh, it would have been bad anyway. Then they talk about inflation in other countries and how the United States didn't face as bad of inflation. Well, yes, America, it's easier for us to absorb inflation because we have such a massive economy, so it's not going to hurt us as bad as other countries that have smaller economies with smaller GDPs. This is all entry-level economics. It's all understandable, but that's what they try and argue. They get away with it. It's just a joke. But when it comes to just the inflation and everything about the pandemic, they say, well, Biden came in, the country was in a horrible spot. Well, what about Donald Trump, who had a great economy and his approval rating was going up in March of his re-election year, having to shut the country down because of a once in a century pandemic? Does that get talked about at all? I mean, that's 10 times worse than what Biden had to deal with. And we already understand. I mean, the country, it is recovering, but another thing that liberals will do is they'll be like, well, Biden leaves office with like a 1.7 or 2% inflation rate. Well, no, Biden from 2020 to 2024 or whatever, January 2021 to January 2025, it's a 20% inflation. It's probably worse, probably like 22%. But that's when you combined all of the inflation. It's really like a 22% inflation rate. That's what Biden had throughout his term. And so don't let that. They're going to try and start doing that and rewriting Biden and say, no, he left office with a 2% inflation rate. He handed Trump a great situation. No, it's 2% based off the previous year. In reality, over his 4 years, now that Biden is leaving office, it's around a 20% inflation rate. I want to get the numbers exactly. I think it's more, but it's around 20%. If you add up when Biden entered versus where we are now, it's basically a 20% rate. And so they're going to try and say, well, he got inflation down, and then Trump takes office and takes credit for all the stuff that Biden did. Well, honestly, it doesn't even matter because there's tangible stuff that Trump's going to do that there's no way Biden would have done, just like border enforcement, just like all the raids. Now it's being announced in Chicago on Monday. Tomorrow, they're going in, they're doing a raid. They're getting all the illegals out. They're already self-deportating. And by the way, this is very smart what Trump is doing. Dress it up as evil as possible to get most of these people to leave themselves. I'm not saying they're all going to do that, but you want to make them as scared and say, we're coming to get you. And so maybe they'll leave and you can save resources. You don't have to chase these people down and you can get them deported as fast as possible. And when it comes to the deportations, what I will say is it does seem like there are some certain conservatives that are saying, well, Trump's not serious. He's actually not going to go through this. It's going to be a mess. I mean, yes, deporting millions of people is a mess. It's not going to happen overnight. On Tuesday, there's not going to be 6 million people that get deported. But it feels like people are immediately going to criticize Trump for that. I'm not trying to simp for Trump. I'm just saying that's what it feels like. Like, this is a very complicated thing. When you deport a ton of people, it's going to take a little bit of time. But I think it's encouraging that it does seem like they are definitely threatening and they're saying we're going to go do raids now. And that might help with self-deporting because it is going to cost money, and we knew it was going to cost money to deport the people, but you can't put a price on safety, and that's what the Trump administration is going to say. So, yeah, I would say when it comes to the whole Biden history and what people remember is that Democrats are going to try and swing it because the economy, it is getting into be a, I mean, we knew the economy was going to recover. We're the United States of America. We have the number one economy in the world. It's inevitably going to recover as we get more and more out from under the COVID situation, and the impacts of that, they're going to get less and less and less as more time passes, which is what's happened. But again, another thing that Biden and the Democrats never would have done is we never would have seen an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, that's not for sure going to happen, but we would expect that to at least move into an end phase of that war. And then it comes down to the argument with Democrats getting angry and saying that Trump gave Russia too much because, that's what's coming next. But it's just like a never-ending thing, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I mean, we'll have to see what the deal ends up being. And you know what? I'm really happy about the situation with Greenland. I think it's going to be a great purchase for the United States. It's going to be very, very good. I think with Canada, it's going to come out in 2026 with the renegotiation of the North American Trade Agreement that Trump gained leverage over the Canadians by threatening them. And you don't even have to tariff them, just get a better trade deal. And I think Trump's going to get an even better trade deal than we've gotten with Canada. We already have a pretty good one, but it's going to be even better. I think that so I think Trump's making the right moves. Canada becoming the 51st state, we don't think it's going to happen. We think that's more so for a new trade agreement. Greenland, I think, is going to happen. Worst case scenario, it's going to be a very close economic agreement with Greenland, and Greenland wants to do it. It's not a video about that, but Greenland wants to do it. It makes so much more sense. You'd rather be aligned independently, with the United States than with Denmark. I mean, it's not even close. So they're trying to get independence from Denmark, and then they're trying to negotiate something with the United States. Inevitably, as long as they get independence from Denmark, something with the United States will be negotiated. I can guarantee that. Now, whether or not we'll actually be able to claim it and get it as a territory, I think Trump will push for it and get it. But again, worst case scenario, we're still going to be able to mine things off of Greenland. They already said they're open to it. So, I mean, getting Greenland, ending wars, the ceasefire with Israel-Palestine, there's about 5 different layers to that. Who knows? Obviously, we would like Trump. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys probably have a different opinion than me on that. I know a lot of Republicans really want to support Israel, but there's a lot of new age Republicans and younger people, maybe a little bit more radical right, that are against aid to Israel or Palestine. And the Biden administration was doing both. They had the Democrats really had that. You want to talk about a no-win issue? Israel-Palestine for Democrats is a 0 win. For Republicans, most Republicans will still support Israel, like not really on the internet, but just in general. I know a lot of people bash Israel on the internet now, a lot of right-wing people. And so I'm not interested in giving Israel money. I mean, obviously it's a very complex situation, but the Middle East, the more influence in the Middle East, normally the worse off it is for especially a country like the United States. And I know there definitely is a new wave of Republicans to where it is more of an isolationist approach, but maybe they're not totally consistent because now they're talking, although I don't know, man. I think there's something very, very different when you're talking about the United States having some type of agreement with Canada or taking over Canada, taking over Greenland versus the United States having affairs in the Middle East. I mean, those, based off of their geographic location, I think it's completely different. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not even I got off on track here, but just in general, I mean, this is pretty typical with Biden. Really, no, it is nothing with Biden. And that's the thing. It is nothing. Like, even when you want to blame Biden, how can you blame the dude? He's not the one making the decisions. Like, when people impassionately defend Biden, I cringe because it's like, you're defending someone. There is no way this guy is making any high-level decisions. This is the most powerful country in the world. It would be malpractice to have this individual who is clearly not at 60% of the mental capacity he was when he was at his peak making decisions. What are you defending? It's like, and that's the thing is I don't barely even criticize Biden anymore because like it's like, well, Biden didn't do this. Well, Biden doesn't do anything. He can't. He's not capable to do it. So it's like, it's hard with Biden. It's a conundrum because he's just so mentally compromised and he's been that way for so long. And even the reports that came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago They admitted that the staffers and the high level people within the Biden administration said, yeah, he's not doing anything. It's more of a ceremonial position. He's just off to the side, agreeing with everything, getting briefed, and they're telling him the briefs are not, when they brief him, it wasn't even like, well, sir, do you want to do this or this? They tell him what they're doing and why they're doing it and trying to explain it off. And he says, okay, that's good. There's no actual confrontation on what do you want to do in this situation? We value your opinion. We want to hear what you have to say. You need to lead us. But it was never that way with Biden because of his mental and physical state. It was not up to being a leader. It's just not good enough. And I know Trump is old, but Trump has aged much better than Biden has. There's just not even close, to a question about it in terms of how sharp he is, just in terms of his movements. You want someone that can move and just be, be able to relate to people and be physical and be passionate. And just with Biden, there's just none of that. It's just like, it's so stale. It's so robotic. And he has to be robotic because when you get old like that, you can't really move your hands and stuff. You have like it's a scary thing. So, that's really the problem. I think Biden's going to be remembered. It's just like, there's nothing there with Biden. There was nothing ever there. And people are going to talk about, well, the infrastructure deals and everything. And as the economy continues to recover, they're going to say Biden and really that administration should get credit for that. And this is the same thing with the Obama stuff where they say, well, when Trump had a good economy, that was because of Obama, even though the economy was dealing with stagnation. Go talk to an economic expert about that in 2014, 2015 under Biden's second term, or excuse me, under Obama's second term. But they don't talk about that at all. And then Trump kickstarted it in 2016, 2017 with more Republican capitalist ideas. And so that's really what happened there. And now Trump, I mean, you're going to get a tangible difference things with wars ending, hopefully, and also with the United States buying Greenland. There's going to be things for workers like no tax on tips if that can go through. Obviously, a lot of crypto stuff. The coin that Trump has, it would be pretty cool. And I'm not saying this is what Trump's going to do. I'm not going to go over the tokenomics of the coin. You guys don't care, but Trump, we believe that Trump owns basically, I could say possibly up to 85% of the supply of this coin. And I criticized him for it. I said, no, that you shouldn't do that in a video, in two videos yesterday and the day before when he launched it. But imagine if he uses, because the coin's at like, what is it, at $60 billion fully diluted market cap right now. Imagine it, and I don't know if he will, but imagine if he uses the money like when the vesting comes and he gets his coins and he sells it for like 3 or 4 billion or whatever it is, his coins, every time the vesting comes up every 3 months, and then he uses that for like the country. And look, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I think it would be pretty amazing if he actually did that. Like, imagine he uses it to buy Bitcoin or something for the country. I don't know, but it would just be cool. Like, if a president through a meme coin could fund his own projects to help the country. And if I was Trump, 100%, I would do that. Like, I see, the thing is with money, it's like once you get a certain amount, I'd rather, for legacy, I'd rather do that. To help the country. And then it becomes like you become even more of a folk hero. You're so old at this point. What does it really matter with money? 2 billion, 3 billion, 10 billion. It's irrelevant. I just think that'd be cool. I listen, Trump's probably not going to do that. I don't know. I said Trump probably shouldn't have started that. It's just, you shouldn't own 80% of the supply. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.